Hey everybody, my name is Yvonne Villarreal, reporter here at the LA Times, and we're starting a bit late, so we thank you for your patience, and I feel like there's no need for introduction here. Joining us today is Kerry Washington, who plays Olivia Pope on Scandal. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me again this year. And
this time in person.
I love
so we're
it.
Not like
yes, cyber buddies.
Touch.
Yes.
We could lick faces too if we want.
We could if
Maybe
we were in
later.
Shondaland.
We'll talk about licking faces. And I want to take a moment right now just to thank all the fans who have been tweeting questions.
So many questions.
If we don't get to you, I apologize now, but we do know that you're talking to us, so thank you.
And we're going to try to get to as many as we can.
Yes, there's like a whole list here. We'll be using the iPad. So, I mean, this was quite the season where we've grown used to seeing the Olivia Fitz dynamic. But this season, we really got to see Olivia outside of that, and we were introduced to her crazy as hell parents.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, talk
about
about exploring that side of her and really getting to know why she is the way she is in some ways.
It's interesting because I think for all of us, when we are, I know for me it happens even when I go home for the holidays or when I go to, hang out with my parents in the Bronx. There's something about being with your family that really brings up the older you. I don't mean older, more evolved. I mean you regress and kind of connect with who you were when you were younger and how you became who you are. So it was really interesting to have a season where Olivia was faced with a lot of the instability of her youth, her childhood, her really tumultuous relationship with her parents, and to see how that has played out and that she has tried to be such an empowered, independent, strong woman, but it's in order to fill the spaces of these horrible, horrible emotional voids.
Did you have any idea, though, how menacing her parents would turn out to be?
No, if you don't. I mean, I've learned to try to stop being shocked or to not be surprised at my shock, I guess is the better way to say it, because they've become true artists of shock, our writers. I mean, I guess they've always been that way, but I guess if you had told me that I would have dinner with my parents and they would pull knives on each other, I would have thought, no.
That's another Sunday for me.
Just another Sunday dinner. Yeah, so I think it's been really exciting to see how screwed up their family is.
And it
really
seems to be only the tipping point.
Yeah, but it also explains why Olivia is drawn to crisis and why she's drawn to wanting to fix things when they're broken, because she comes from such a broken place. And there's something about being broken that actually is her comfort zone, because it sort of looks like home, which in some ways explains why she's really caught in this relationship that, while it is so beautiful, the love that Fitz and Olivia have for each other, clearly there's also things about it that are very broken and tragic. And the fact that that feels okay for her might be partly because she comes from a place of such tragedy and unhealthy love.
Do you think she's finally ready to work on herself? I mean, we see her give advice to people, and it's usually advice she herself should be taking. Do you think next season we'll see her sort of trying to work on the issues she has? Or
I have no idea what next season holds. I mean, I know you've had Joe here and Bellamy here. We have no clue what's going to happen. But I can only hope, actually, I mean, I really only hope that these writers continue to have a blast. But I think because of where we ended season 3, with Olivia having the realization that she is the crisis, that she is the thing that needs to get fixed, that she's realizing through the course of season 3 how much healing she needs to do. And I think she leaves on that plane to try to begin that healing journey.
We talk about the edge of the seat and not knowing what's coming next. How is that for you as an actor to not be able to plan ahead? Because sometimes actors like to know at least where you're headed. And to not have that, how is that for you? Like, to never be prepared until you're in that table read and you're like freaking out with everybody.
It's challenging in the most thrilling way. I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to not be able, for I think if you're somebody like me who loves to analyze a script and break it down and study the arc and know where it's going, I want that control of understanding where my character comes from, where they're going, where they are now, and where they're going. But we don't know that. We don't even know always where we've come from because of the flashback nature of the show and meeting characters from our past. So it's hard, but it's great. I mean, I feel like the show has made me a better actor in that I've had to embrace surprise and I've had to surrender control in a way.
I think everybody wants a seat in that table read room when you guys are doing it.
It's so fun.
It looks fun. I feel like there just needs to be like its own show, like an
the table reads.
The table reads. Do you remember though, like, was there a moment that stuck out for you that really just, like, when you're reading it, like, gave you goosebumps or like made you want to throw up?
There's been so many. There was the moment when the president killed Verna, our Supreme Court Justice. That was shocking. That whole 752 episode, Guillermo Diaz's the Huck backstory episode. I think there was not a dry eye in the house. When Dan Bugatinsky's character was shot, that episode. Oh my gosh, there's been so many. There's so many. And
then it's like offset with like moments like the face licking. Like, are you guys cracking up? And are you saying, why isn't that an Olivia thing? Why is it a Guillermo?
Well, that moment, that whole, the emergence of that love story between the two of them was a shocker. I mean, we were screaming in the table read. We couldn't believe it. It was so exciting. And it's so fun because Katie and Guillermo are such good friends and sort of watch them navigate how awkward all of that is. It's been really fun. I think we really root for each other to have outrageous stuff because that's when you start to really have fun as an actor, when you get to be pushed past your comfort zone, which you don't get to be on our show without getting pushed past your comfort zone, whether it's just the pace that our guest stars have to speak or the plot lines that our regulars have to navigate.
Do you give the guest stars tips on how to like do the Shonda and like
we do
dialogue?
The Scandal pace is pretty intense, and people, even if we say to them, you have to really go fast, people don't really get it until they're on set, and they are a little bit. You can feel they're trying to find their way, and we always say, when you screw up the line, then you've got it right. Like, you're in Scandal pace when you're screwing up your lines because that means you've really surrendered to it and you're letting it move you in a way that you're not entirely in control, where you've kind of given over to the creative flow of it. So we always encourage our guest stars to feel comfortable when they mess up, because that just means they're in the fam.
Well, I feel like that's also why everyone's face is so tight and like, because like the gymnastics, like I would like, does your face ever hurt?
When we come back from hiatus, we always feel like we have to do like lingual calisthenics to wake up our mouths because no one has been talking that fast or having to articulate things to that degree. Yeah, it's intense when or even coming back after the holidays when everybody's like food drunk and relaxed. We're all like,
Interesting. We had a lot of questions asking what was the most challenging scene this season for you, and I kind of want to build off of that. And after you answer that, can you maybe say, was there a scene that was really easy for you, like that you felt like I knew where to go for this, like I know what to do?
I always say, I know when there's a character that I want to play or a project that I want to do, because when I'm reading it, I'm already acting it. Like it already feels like it lives in my body, and I've already stepped into the process of performing the role as I'm reading it for the first time. And that happened to me when I read the pilot for this show. And it happens to me again and again when I'm reading episodes. Like this show lives inside me, and this season took Olivia in places that I never would have imagined and never expected. But again, it all felt so right. It felt like this woman needs to break down to break through. And so I don't know that there was an easy moment, but there were moments that I really understood emotionally. I mean, there was that really beautifully written phone call that Olivia has with Jake after her dad shoots her mother's boyfriend in the office. I mean, just describing what happens. I'm like, how is this woman not in therapy?
Right.
But she's not. She's a fixer instead. I need therapy. Olivia Pope survives without it. But that monologue was about her, remembering her mother in the park with her lover. And it was just so honestly written that I had a very living sense of how to play the scene even before I got to work, because that scene tapped into what Olivia's been missing her whole life, which is that sense of secure, safe love and the idea that somebody is really going to take care of you. So instead she's built this life taking care of other people.
How about that scene with her father and they're meeting and she's like, can you just be my dad?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah.
That scene was really important, and sort of in a full circle then when I go to visit him in the season finale in the hospital, their journey, that idea that park bench scene where she says, if everybody's evil, how do you know what the point is? What's the point? I really loved that moment because both Olivia and Papa Pope and Rowan are very guarded, and they know how to perform their identity in the world. They know how to perform power. But in that moment, they both let themselves be vulnerable in order to tap into this thing they have in common, which is that which we think we have in common, but then with the way the season ended, who knows?
I don't know if you have anything.
I know.
DNA.
But that idea that that the job is to eradicate evil, and that you may spend your whole life trying to do something impossible because the world can be a pretty screwed up place, but you still spend your life trying to make it better. I love that idea. I think any activist or community organizer who does the work identifies with that idea that the world can be a pretty screwed up place, and there is going to be people out there who don't believe in the best interest of other people, but your job is to try to make it better, is to try to balance the scale, is to try to, not that Olivia Pope is a community organizer, that's not what I'm saying, please don't yell at me, I have no, with her Prada bags, that's not what she's doing, but that idea of wanting to make change and wanting to do good and being up against all odds.
Well, the way he ends it too, like, am I done now?
Yeah.
Am I done?
Because it's hard for him to be that vulnerable with her.
I kind of wish the season bled into June, because I want to know what their Father's Day might be like. Does Olivia get him a card?
I think she makes pottery and
no.
There might be an exchange of wine. That would work.
That would
Red
work.
wine would be a good Father's Day. Since that's what he gave to her, we learned. She could give him a bottle of wine for Father's Day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some of these questions here.
Okay.
Would you say that, this is from Victor on Google+. Hi, Victor.
Hi, Victor.
Would you say that being Olivia has somehow changed or had an effect on your own character?
Yes. I think that Olivia is sort of unapologetically willing to take control of a situation, and I think I've learned a lot from her about how to own my own power in a room or in a professional situation. Not the same kinds of situations,
right,
in the same ways, but she really isn't afraid to hold her own in a room, and I think I've learned a lot from her about that.
Okay, that's a good answer. Mari on Twitter asks, now that you're a mom, will it be bittersweet to go back to work? I wonder, is that going to be a weird thing? Because I imagine it's so fast-paced, or does the normalcy of a schedule help out, you think?
So tricky, because I don't really
you wouldn't want to talk about
stuff. Yeah,
I respect that.
But I will say that I'm really, the one thing I'll say is I feel really, really blessed. I just feel like I feel really blessed that I'm kind of living extraordinary dreams come true in my work life and in my personal life.
Yeah.
So
okay. Let's see. Oh, this is a very simple question, and gets right to the point from Mary Cowell, and she asks, has
I like
Olivia
Mary.
Pope...
Mary tweets a lot. Yeah.
Has Olivia Pope lost her mind?
Did Olivia Pope ever have her mind? I think what Mary's talking about is getting on that plane.
Getting on that
Jake,
plane. Yes.
I know you, Mary. I mean, I don't really know you, but I Twitter know you.
Yeah.
I think no. I think what Olivia's trying to do is to regain some sense of sanity, and there's no question about it that Olivia loves Fitz. I mean, she says that to Jake in that moment, that she's in love with Fitz, that she loves Fitz. But I think she also is just trying to turn her life into a place that is not so upside down, you know, create a healthy life for herself where she can not feel like she's stuck in a relationship with somebody who can't be with her. And, you know, I mean, they have a very, very complicated relationship, and I think she's trying to find more simplicity and healthy expressions of love and safety and sanity around her.
Well, and she probably saw Scott Foley's ads with the towels.
That was it. She saw those charisma ads, Scott Foley. I don't, no, I mean, listen, it's tricky, you know. I think Jake is a great guy, and Jake cares about Olivia a lot and loves her, and neither man has treated her entirely well. So it's tricky. It's very tricky.
Well, we have another question that I feel
Vermont.
Yeah,
I know. I have a feeling they're not flying to Vermont on that plane.
No?
But no. I mean, I don't know, but I have a feeling she's not flying to Vermont with Jake. But
talk about that moment, though, with Fitz. I mean, I was kind of like, oh.
That episode. You know what? That was one of those goosebump scripts that when I actually realized about a page before he said, "This is your house," I kind of had a feeling that was her house.
Your life.
And I was so choked up with it. I mean, it's just so beautifully romantic and loving, and it's so complicated. It's so complicated and beautiful.
Yeah.
But that, and Tony in that scene, he just does such beautiful work in that monologue about, you know, getting that house for her. And that scene was one of the most fun scenes to shoot all season. Not the love scene, but the argument that we have leading up to that moment, because it was just, you know, the thing about being in this cast is that you get to act with the most talented human beings. And so when you get handed material like that, I've had scenes like that with Joe Morton and with Bellamy Young, and this scene with Tony in particular, so many of my scenes with Tony, but you just feel like you're going to dance. You're hitting the dance floor with an amazing dance partner, and you just want to create magic together. And we worked so hard on that scene, and that episode was directed by Ava DuVernay, who I love. And yeah, we had a blast working at finding the anger, finding the humanity and the vulnerability and the sense of betrayal and the sense of longing, and putting that all together. Yeah.
How about the scene that Fitz has with Mellie, where he sort of blames her for everything that's happened? For you as the actor that has to play Olivia, what did that make you feel? Like, do you think that's his true feelings, or do you think, like, had that not happened, he and Olivia would have eventually, like, do you really think he believes that?
I don't know. I saw Shonda tweet something about, like, you know, hurt people say mean things, but I think the truth is not black or white. I think it's very difficult to say it's her fault or it's his fault. I think there's truth to when he said to her in season 1, "Why didn't I have the courage to wait for you?" But I think there's also truth that he was willing to make his marriage work, and then it didn't. So I think it's complicated, like all things in Scandal. It's very complicated. I will say that scene was so tricky to shoot because Kerry, the actor, was so excited about what was happening in that scene, and so just in love with both of those actors and what they were creating in that moment. And Olivia, the character, was behind the door, devastated to hear everything that was going on. So it was a fun day.
And then when he yells at you, it's like you could see, like, it was like a verbal slap. Like, you could see your face, like, taking it.
Yeah, that I'm talking to my wife. I mean, that is, that cuts right to it.
Yeah.
It cuts right to it. And it's, you know, coming off of all that stuff about Olivia feeling like the help. So it really was raw. It was raw.
For you, as with 3 seasons in, what would you...
I can't believe it's 3
I
seasons.
know.
Wow.
What would you go back and tell the Kerry Washington who's getting on the set for the pilot shoot, about to do the first scene? What would you tell her about what lies ahead?
Oh my gosh. I would say take more pictures. Because this is going to be one of the most important, significant, life-changing journeys for you as a woman and as an artist, as a friend, as a business person, that this journey you're about to embark on is truly transformative, and you are about to make friends that you will be madly in love with for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just enjoy it.
And you'll be a force on Twitter. You should tell her that too. We have a question from T, and I want to piggyback it off afterward. But she asked, "What message do you hope Olivia's character sends to young brown girls?"
Oh.
And I mean, you got a lot of attention, especially last year when you were nominated, and a lot of focus through the lens of you being like one of the first African Americans like on a drama. So.
Not the first, but the first
one of them.
Almost
Yeah,
40
yeah,
years.
yeah. But talk about, because I know Shonda was sort of like, we need to stop looking at it through this lens, but there's also some merit to it. So talk about all aspects, I guess.
Yeah, it's tricky because when I hear a question like that, I don't think that Olivia Pope is a role model per se. I think there are things about her that are... There are things about her that I admire, her wardrobe, for example, but also the fact that she's an entrepreneur, the fact that she's a self-made woman, that she's truly empowered, that she's clearly educated, that she's successful, that she delegates, that she has executive authority. All of those things are very inspiring and very intriguing and powerful, and an important thing for young brown girls to see. I would say her example of her personal life, not so much.
Yes.
That's not exactly, the standard of how you want to live your romantic life. And that I actually think is really important in itself for young women, and not just young brown girls, but
everyone.
Women and men. And for us to be able to love characters that are imperfect is really important, because I had a young woman write to me during the second season, I think, when we first learned that Olivia had fixed the election. And she said that she was devastated, that she actually went to therapy and had to process that this person that she so admired broke the law and broke her code of moral ethics. I felt the same way when I first read that stuff about Olivia. What I realized is that when we expect perfection from our characters, oftentimes it's because we expect perfection from ourselves and in our relationships. And that is really impossible. It's impossible for any person to uphold that kind of perfection.
Right.
So I think when we learn to have compassion and love a character with their flaws, it's actually good in helping us work our own muscles and learning to accept our own humanity and our own flaws, because all of us are just doing the best we can in our given circumstances in life. And those feelings that come up, I often say, and I've said to other cast members, when you're reading Twitter, it's important to know that a lot of times the things that people are saying, those are things you're triggering in them about their feelings about themselves, their feelings about their lives. So it's really fun to take it on and engage with it, but also know that we're all doing the best we can, and where we meet with resistance on how to love a character is where we also meet with resistance in life on how to love ourselves or how to love other people.
That's well said. We have another question, and I'm glad she asked this because they're some of my favorite scenes, but what do you like most about Shooting Melibea scenes?
Oh, we love Melibea scenes. Long live Melibea.
Long live Melibea.
I always feel like people, Bellamy and I always say that we are both Team Melly and both Team Olivia. because they're both such extraordinary women. And again, I think we live in a society where we kind of want to decide that one woman has to be right and the other has to be wrong, or that one woman is good and the other woman is bad. And I think, you know, there's room in this world for more than one fabulously dressed, powerful, smart, sophisticated, complicated woman at the table. There certainly is room for that in our show, and I think that's true in life as well, that there doesn't have to only be one woman. There is, you know, life is not that limited. There's not like, if Bellamy gets a piece of the pie, I don't get to have pie. There's pie for everybody. And our cast is so talented and wonderful that you really get to experience that. You get to say, like, wow, I thought I hated this character, but oh, turns out her life and her backstory is more complicated than I thought. And oh, I really thought I hated that man, but wow, look at what he's been through and how he became that person. So I just love that the show challenges our ideas about, you know, being on a team or supporting one person or competition or any of that, because for me personally, it's so important to not buy into that. It's like, life is rich and full and there's enough for everybody, and I can be team Melly and team Olivia and team Fitz and team Jake, and I'm mostly team Shonda, whatever she writes.
There should just be like a double date.
That would be weird.
That would be weird. But I feel like Olivia should like invite Melly over, like Melly can have her scotch or whiskey, and you can have your wine and just talk it out
over hooch and wine.
I like
that idea.
Just consider it.
But it was so funny when John Tenney joined the cast. We were like, oh my gosh, because it's become this sort of star. It's no longer a love triangle. It's this beautiful star with all of these complicated relationships. One of the most fun scenes I had this year was my scene with John Tenney, where I said, choose one. That scene was so much fun. That monologue was so kind of old school Olivia Pope. It reminded me of like Park Bench early on. And that dynamic between the two of them, it's so much fun. It's so, the more rich all of these characters become, the better the show is for me.
We had another person ask if you would ever consider directing an episode.
Oh.
Tony's done a few.
He has, and I'm notoriously poorly behaved when he directs. I try to give Tony a really hard time, to the point where my mother was visiting once when Tony was directing, and she was like, you are awful. But we love Tony. I don't know. It's not something I've talked about. I love directing. I've directed in the past a PSA and a music video, and I really love directing, but I'm usually really busy every episode. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
You're quite the busy one on that show. How about talking about behind the scenes? Like, do you think, not to like bash men or anything, but do you think
not to bash men.
Sorry, guys, here. But do you think Olivia would be as compelling if it wasn't nurtured by a female? If Shonda and Betsy weren't behind this?
I don't know. It's tricky. I mean, I think it's hard to say. Like, I hate when people put actors in boxes, like they only do comedy or they only do drama or they only play moms or they, you know, I think the point of being an actor is to be able to be transformative and transformed, and I think the same is true for writers. I mean, one of my most favorite books of all times is Giovanni's Room, which is written by James Baldwin, who's an African-American man, but the character is a white character, and books written by women with male protagonists. I think it works, but I do think there is a very special awareness that Shonda brings from many facets of her life to this character as a successful woman in the business world who runs the show, you know, who literally runs several shows, and who has had to fix lots of crises in her own world, as a woman of color, as a successful, I mean, I think there are a lot of dynamics that she brings to the table, as an African American, as a woman, as a successful person, as a person who loves politics. Her particular lens that she views the world through lends itself beautifully to this show. Yeah.
How about, I know you don't know much about what's coming ahead, but we had one commenter ask if you think we might see Olivia's style change. Do you think she might wear more colors? And I found that interesting because, you know, on The Good Wife, after she had her affair, we saw the bangs, and that was like a big deal. Like, it does symbolize some sort of change.
That's what we do as women. You know, so much of part of how we perform our identity is through hair and makeup and clothes. And Lynn Paolo and I really, from the very beginning, worked very hard on the aesthetic of this character and on the color palette. And, you know, some of it comes from wearing the white hat, and some of it comes from this idea of the purity of white and justice. And so it's funny. I actually posted a picture of a new purse of mine on Twitter the other day, and it's the Olivia Pope Prada bag, but it's in bright green, because that is the difference between Olivia Pope and Kerry, that I would wear a bright color and she wouldn't. But a lot of people thought that it was an Olivia bag, and were saying like, oh, is that for season 4? Is she going to have brighter colors? And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I really think her aesthetic was chosen for professional reasons as much as emotional reasons. So I don't know. Now that she's left her job, who knows where she's going? I mean, wherever this plane lands, we could find her in a sari and a bindi on her forehead. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and without like making you say who will be by her side,
I don't know.
Who do you think Olivia Pope is at like 65?
Oh, wow. Who is Olivia Pope at 65? I think she's still trying to fix things, because I think that's part of her personality. I mean, it's her job, but it's also like Judy Smith, who's the woman who inspired this character. She really is a fixer, although she never slept with any president. She is a fixer everywhere she goes. Like if she's at Starbucks and somebody doesn't have the right change, she's like trying to figure that out for them. So I think she'll still be trying to fix situations, whether it's for her neighbor or her grandkids or the jam factory or her husband Jake. I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't say it.
Could be any of those. If she's making jam, it's not her husband Jake. But who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Nice. Let's take another question. Let's see. Yodi wants to know if Hi Yodi. If there is one thing you could change about Liv, what would it be and why?
Ooh. If there's one thing I could change about Liv, I would. I think I would want her to be able to let love in more. I think the show would be less interesting. Right? But, you know, there was that beautiful moment that I got to do with Darby Stanchfield this year where Abby hugs Liv and she's like, that idea that she has such a hard time letting people love her. For her as a person, I would want that for her. I want Olivia one day. You know, people always say to me, like, do you think she should be with Fitz or do you think she should be with Jake? And I just want Olivia eventually, maybe not too soon, because we got a show to do.
Yes, we got a show to do.
But I want her to be happy. I want her to be loved and to be loved in a healthy, happy way that makes her feel good. And I want her to be able to receive that love, which I don't think she's so good at doing.
Okay. Here, what season of Olivia, and this is Tatiana D on Twitter.
What up?
What is the most important thing you've learned from Scandal?
To let love in. What's the most important thing I've learned from Scandal? I think it has been something about, gosh, it's so hard to say because my life has changed so much since I started doing the show in so many ways. And I think the thing that the show has taught me is to kind of, to let the good stuff in, you know, to let in the gifts that life sometimes brings your way, like a phenomenal show with a phenomenal group of people who are devoted to the work and devoted to each other from top to bottom, from in every department of our show, and other stuff, you know, just to be able to embrace the good in life, I think.
You mentioned Judy Smith earlier. Is she still heavily involved? Like, do you still consult with her about some of Liv's actions?
I talked to Judy 3 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and she and I we try to go over every script at least once, just to talk through the dynamics of how this might work in her world. We don't talk about the relationship stuff as much, but we do talk a lot about the professional stuff, you know, running a campaign, running an election, fixing an election, running a campaign, not fixing an election, fixing all different kinds of crises in all different areas. And sometimes I do talk to her about the relationship stuff, but not, her personal life is very healthy and sane. But sometimes I do talk to her about the struggle of not being able to share or not sharing what you do with the people you love because it has to be so private.
We had another question wondering what you consider Liv's biggest downfall in the 3rd season.
Liv's biggest downfall in the 3rd season. I mean, in a way, it's the season finale. It's trusting her dad because she really believes that that he's being honest with her, and he's not. And he's won. I mean, I love the full circle of the 3rd season, that we start with him trying to get her on a plane, and she refuses, and she's going to do this the Olivia Pope way. She's not going to give in and get on a plane. And by the season finale, he's got her on a plane.
Right.
And it's taken all season to break her to that point and to manipulate her relationships so that she feels that she has to run from the president, and she feels like she should be with Jake so that he gets his organization back. I mean, he has won at the end of season 3, and I love that that's where we end it.
Right. Oh, man. Well, as we gear up for the 4th season.
Yeah, hopefully she gets to win again. But who knows?
Well, it's becoming Shonda night on ABC next season.
It's pretty extraordinary and historical and important and fabulous and to be celebrated, Miss Shonda Rhimes. My dear Lord.
Well, Twitter's not ready, I don't think.
I don't think Twitter's ready. And I've seen the pilot for How to Get Away with Murder.
Really?
You ain't ready. It's
ready.
really fun. It's great. Viola's a beast. So it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Well, we'll find out how soon after we pick up with, I mean, I don't know where we pick up.
Who knows? Who knows? I haven't gotten a phone call yet to say, like, because I did get a phone call halfway through the hiatus between 2 and 3 to say, no, it's minutes later. So you have to, your hair has to be the same and everything. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know how much longer or where I'm going to be. Where does that plane land?
Where does it land?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Where
so many questions. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for being such a fan and a supporter of our show. We so appreciate it.
Well, and thanks to the fans for all these questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all, but I assure you I asked more than I ever have. So nice job.
Thank you guys for writing the questions and for watching the show and for supporting. And we just love you. We're so appreciative. We know that we are nothing without our fans.
And if you want to check out more of our chats, go to latimes.com. Thanks, guys.